We are afraid, though, because we're worried that AI may take our very precious job, the intellectual property that we have, the way that we feed our families, the way that we move through this life. But I do think it's important as we think about our kids and the types of new skills they will have to develop. If I can remove that from their project queue, I feel like as an owner, I'm obligated to do that. I feel like as an owner, I'm obligated to improve my bottom line. I'm obligated as a business owner, and I'm only speaking to you now if you're a business owner. What's interesting to me is that AI is coming for jobs. If you're not performing well, AI is going to take your job, and they should. It should. Technology does what technology does. How is AI changing business? That was the question of the day at the event that I just got back from, hosted by the Alero Group. Shout out to Stephanie Edwards for the invitation to be a part of this amazing panel and this incredible event. Sponsored by Paycor. Thank you for the great lunch. Juan's Flaming Fajitas. If you come to Vegas and don't stop there, I'm going to get you. But listen, we had a fantastic moderator, great questions, great crowd. And I had the opportunity to sit on the panel with Saul Gibson, who's a cybersecurity consultant and expert, Amy Matthews, who is an HR expert, Dr. Jamie Fairclough, who is an AI, data science, engineer, just amazing over at Roseman University. They're opening a brand new university, medical university here in Southern Nevada. And Dr. Alice Akunyili, I hope I got her name right. She is the Associate Dean for Foundational Educational Development, and just incredible insights. I was pleased and blessed to be a part of this panel. And I just have some notes from the meeting. After we left the event, as I typically do, I always say that when you attend an event, there is a shelf life to good information. There's a shelf life to what you learned at the event. And for years and years, I have always taken time after I leave an event, when I pick up some insights, I jot them down. Of course, today they're on a digital. Back in the day, it was on paper. And I just take away some thoughts and some notes. And so what I thought I would do is, while I was a panelist and I certainly had some things to share, you hear from me all the time. What I wanted to do is just share a few of the expansive ideas that came from our panelists. So if you wouldn't mind, I just want to share with you, because sometimes when you hear something from one person, you may not believe that it is as good as it is, or you might not want to receive it all the way that they say it. And what I loved about our panel today was there was a forward thinking mentality and an early adoptive mentality about AI, not without its risks and not without its challenges. We all are going to face those as we go through this. So I want to run through 7 or 8 big ideas that came out of the discussion today. And I'm going to start with the elephant in the room. The elephant in the room is that many of us, many of you, many people around the world are still afraid to step their foot into the world of a Chat GPT or a Microsoft Copilot or Gemini or some of the tools. Some of us are still afraid. We're afraid of our personal information being captured by the system. We're afraid of violating company policies, which I'll talk to in just a little bit, that Amy talked a little bit about. We are afraid, though, because we're worried that AI may take our very precious job, the intellectual property that we have, the way that we feed our families, the way that we move through this life. All of the education that we've learned, where is that going to go? One of the questions that came up that was really interesting was about, what about our kids and the basic skills that may be lost when we get into an AI world, and they don't have to do the same sorts of things that we had to do 10, 20, 50, 100 years ago, hundreds of years ago. And I think these are all valid questions and valid concerns. But number one, to those that have fear about AI, for those who have fear and hesitation about stepping into that world to figure out where it can work for you or where it can help you, I'm not telling you to set your fears all the way aside, but I will say this, and it's something that I think I've learned over the years. Of course, being an entrepreneur, you have to take risks. When you are in digital marketing, of course, we have to make our way through. There's no certainties in life. And I think that's the message I'd like to share with you, is there are no certainties in life. But here's what I do know. In my lifetime, I'm 54 now. Ever since I started messing with technology in the early 90s, technology has never lost. Technology does what technology does. So the question becomes is if in fact that's true, and it is. See, you could want to still have an analog cable box and an analog telephone. Unfortunately, that's just not the technology of the day, right? The technology of the day is digital, right? You could decide that you want a certain, I love what Dr. Alice said. It was a great analogy. And she says, horses were the best thing going until the car came along. And what was really interesting is no one would decide today, in many places, of course, should you not have vehicles, then that may not be the same scenario. But no one's really today saying, I miss riding a horse to get to work, or I miss riding a horse to go see my family, because we have this opportunity of a car. So, one thing about fear is that it's okay to be fearful. It's okay to have skepticism. I do as well. Listen, as much as I've evolved in AI over the last 4, 5, or 6 years, and more so in the last 2 years, it doesn't come without risk. It doesn't come without uncertainty. So I would ask you to set some of that aside and just be careful with your temperature of fear. Be careful with your temperature, because your temperature of fear is the very thing that could set you apart and set you back in terms of keeping up with the ever evolving change that is inevitable. I love what Amy had to say at one point, talking about the guardrails and the need for policies and governance inside of organizations. Of course, in her perspective as a HR professional, she has purview around, and she's a risk manager in many cases, where she has to balance the organization's liability with the benefits and the safety and the well-being of the employees and the staff. And she talked about a story, which I won't get into the details here, but one of the very first lawsuits from a potential employment candidate was being bypassed, and there's now litigation around the software having potentially have been skewed, because AI may have been programmed in, and it might have been taught to create bias. And this particular case is now pending and in court for real. So the things that are very interesting around governance in your workplace is that what she said was, we need policies. We need to make sure that as leaders, as entrepreneurs, as parents, right, we have policies. I remember I talked briefly about some advice that I gave my youngest daughter, who's in college. And I talked to her about how she should think about AI so that she doesn't get herself in trouble. In the sense, what I mean by that is, how can you use AI as your assistant? How can you use AI to help do the things for research? How can you help AI explain things better? And I remember having that conversation with her a long time ago, and I shared that during the panel. But I do think it's important as we think about our kids and the types of new skills they will have to develop. That was another comment and question that was brought up during the discussion, is our kids today will get new skills. And it may be hard for us older folks who have gone through the old way of doing things, of looking back and saying, well, why don't they do it the way we were taught to do it? I know in many schools, handwriting is not even required anymore. Learning how to do cursive writing is not, and I guess we could sit and say, well, what's the value of that? And is it right? Is it not right? But we're just going to have kids who grew up with a device in their hands that has more power than anything we ever had when we were growing up. And things have changed. Another good point that came up had to do with timing, the timing of AI right now, right? The timing of it. It's available to everyone. It's available to everyone, no matter what you do, where you are socioeconomically. It is available for everyone because it's become open source. Meta's coming out with their open source. OpenAI is now free on the 4.0 version. Claude, Gemini, everyone's got a free option. So the game is open for everyone. My question for you is, are you in the game now? Right? If you've been around this podcast for a while, you've heard me talk about the diffusion of innovation, which is this technology adoption bell curve. I learned it 30 years ago. I talk about it a lot because I look through the lenses of a lot of the things that I work through in my business and marketing, as a parent, in my own walk as a consumer. And I kind of just map everything against that bell curve. And we have a real opportunity, each and every one of us, even though ChatGPT at the time of recording this has been out for coming up on 2 years. It'll be 2 years in November that it made waves. It's been around longer than that. But the reality is, there's a great opportunity timing wise to explore new paths in your life, explore new opportunities. Someone asked me in a side conversation, Is it really easy to start a business today? Like, what if I wanted to start a business today? Is AI, can AI help me do that? I'm like, absolutely, it can help you do that. Right now, barriers are removed when you use technology in the right way. Another question came up, and I thought it was a very interesting, rich discussion. And that is AI really intelligent? It's called artificial intelligence. And one of the audience members, one of the attendees, asked the question, says, We call it artificial intelligence, but is it really intelligent? And I can't begin to break down what Dr. Alice had to say, but it was so beautiful that the 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 items of what we bring to it as humans, what we bring to it is our intelligence into this artificial slash automated slash technology, right? But the systems itself, the large language models themselves, are not intelligent because they are really regurgitating and pulling back. I love what Dr. Jamie said about it. She said it's just math behind the scenes. And that was fascinating to me. I guess inherently I knew that, but how it goes from math to words on a page or code is just fascinating. So, interesting feedback and great insight from people that are behind the scenes on, and working in this field from a different perspective, but playing in the game, in the workplace, in their work. And that is what's fascinating. Is AI really intelligent? I don't know. I think we bring our intelligence to it. And you've heard me talk about Dr. Li Jiang, which, if you haven't seen that video, he's from the Stanford AIR program, AIRE. I believe it's AI robotics. I think it's education. Anyway, but when I watched his video a year and a half or so ago, it changed everything for me. And he said, and I'll repeat it here because it's worth repeating and understanding, and maybe it'll help you understand how you can lower your fear. Maybe it'll help you understand how you can move forward in today's timing. And that is, he says that AI is good from 1+, whereas humans are good from 0 to 1. Let me do it again. AI is good from 1+. Us as humans, we're good from 0 to 1. What does that mean? At least what I took it to mean was the creativity, the ideation, the innovation, the desire, the intent, the here's what I'd like it to do. We have to bring that. And I think, again, it was either Dr. Jamie or Dr. Alice. They talked about it. They said AI is not going to create the next blockbuster movie. Could it create a movie? Sure, it can create a movie, but it won't create the blockbuster because that takes ideas, that takes words, that takes story. It's going to be able to do things like that to where you could produce something. It's going to be able to produce music. It's going to be able to write a book. It's going to be able to do your job in many cases, but it won't be able to do the thinking part and the creativity. And that, my friend, is where I want you to keep your mind focused. One of the last things that came up, which was a consistent theme across the board, had to do with the ability, the efficiency, the speed, and the agility of how we can use AI to improve our weekly productivity. I think about what Asal said, and Asal talked about in her world a cyber threat, and it was a tweet, and I don't remember the intricate details, but in her world, there was a tweet that had a certain word in it, and it made it through their filter, and it triggered an alert. Well, then by the time they were able to really get their hands around it, it had been retweeted and retweeted and retweeted, I believe 4,000 times. And this is manual work that her team would have to do to validate or decide if these are real threats or not. And in her case, she talked about how AI, it just in one case, is able to remove all of the burden and the time and the human capital that's needed to have everyone looking at each and every one of those things. Over and over again, we look at the workplace. We look at employees being feeling that they're disengaged with their work. They are feeling like they're not having enough time off. They want more flexibility. They don't want to be overworked. And so when I think about the opportunity for employees, if you're an employee, is your job is you have an obligation to learn how to use AI in your work, right? Don't cheat. Don't cut the line. Don't try to put nothing past anybody because you will be found out. That's my belief. You will be found out. But using AI to learn, using AI to build bridges, using AI to move yourself forward, using AI to get you unstuck, using AI to do the mundane, the one pluses in your life is what I think everyone has an opportunity to do. The question is on this bell curve, which starts with, early adopters. It starts with innovators, then it moves to early adopters. It goes to early majority, late majority, or laggards. That's how the bell curve works. The question I'll leave with you right now is, where are you on the curve? And let's be clear, we're all on the curve in different places and different things in our lives, right? I wasn't the first person to get an iPhone. Didn't care, didn't think about it.
So
I was happy with
part of the MindShift
I was happy with my BlackBerry.
So
We know how that ended up, y'all. But the point is right now that we are at a pivotal time, and I didn't make this up. I did say it before it became public, but I didn't say it. I can't take credit for it, but I will say that I think it was Harvard Business Review who validated what I ended up telling my team internally. And I said, this really feels like an electricity moment in our history of the world, an electricity moment. And I wasn't trying to be hyperbolic. It really felt like that to me. It felt like that when the internet came along. It felt like that when I transitioned from offline marketing to digital marketing. It doesn't invalidate digital marketing, just like gas doesn't invalidate electricity. Like gas heat and electric heat, they both heat things up. So this is a new frontier that we're on. And I want to leave you with this, and this is just hopefully something that will inspire you with wherever you're at. Maybe you're fearful. Maybe you're not sure because you're in a position of governance and you don't know how to govern this. Maybe you're the one writing policy and you don't know exactly what to put in the policy so that you don't handcuff your team and your company. Listen, we're all in this together. Those of us that are users, especially users, if we're not developers, then we're in a different ballgame. But I'm in the use case business, right? And I talked about this in one of my previous episodes where I talked about our business improving our cost structure, lowering our cost structure by 67%. That doesn't mean I don't need people. That doesn't mean I don't need talent, because I need talent to think, to ideate, to create. But where my team was working their behinds off on mundane stuff that would drive their brains sick, even though they knew how to do it and they were skilled to do it, if I can remove that from their project queue, I feel like as an owner, I'm obligated to do that. I feel like as an owner, I'm obligated to improve my bottom line. I'm obligated as a business owner, and I'm only speaking to you now if you're a business owner. I'm obligated as a business owner to improve the profit line, which we improved by 253%. I'm obligated to improve costs, which I did by 67%. And I'm obligated to make sure that we are putting the best product and service in the marketplace for our clients and our customers. Those are the obligations that I see as a business leader, as an owner, as a founder. So I invite you that if you're on that side of the fence, that's how I'd like you to think about this. If you're on the side of the fence as the employee, understand this. Understand this. And I said this at the event, and I'll finish with this. I read recently that Intuit was laying off about 1,800 people in an effort to move forward and more aggressively in their AI approach to how they do things internally. That's not a surprise. They're not the first company. There's plenty of companies. But here's what I found interesting that the CEO said. You can Google this article and find it anywhere. 1,050 of the 1,800 were being let go of because of poor performance. And so you may not have heard me say this before, but I feel like in corporate America, and I feel like all over the place, this isn't just a pick on corporate America, but I feel like there's a group of people who go to work and do just enough to get the check, and the company will then only pay you just enough to keep you from quitting. What's interesting to me is that AI is coming for jobs where if you're not performing well, AI is going to take your job, and it should. So it was interesting. 1,050 were being let go because of poor performance, not just because of AI, but because of poor performance. So what I'm saying to you is, if you're in the employee role, don't leave yourself in that bucket where you could be subject to that layoff. I always say in my world that the most talented people never get laid off. the most talented people don't get fired ever. Now, I could be wrong, but in my belief, there's no way on earth I'm going to let someone go who works in that department. If they're talented, I'm going to find a way to move them to this department. Do you feel me? So make yourself more valuable. One of the best mentors ever in the world gave me this: make yourself more valuable. Then you don't have to worry about what AI is going to do. Because if you're more valuable than just the skill you do, even if AI can come and eventually do that, people like me, I'm going to find something else for you to do in the company because you're too valuable to let go. Not just because AI does that thing. I'm going to figure out, where do I get you to bring your value to other areas, to other problems in the business. Will AI come get jobs? Yeah, it's going to come get jobs. Just like the tractor took jobs, just like cars took jobs. Everything that moves and evolves, jobs change and evolve, and we have to find a way to come up with new skills. I'm excited about this time that we're in. I am blessed to be living in this time that we're in right now. Let me be clear. We're not without problems. We're not without challenges. We're not without the politics and the wars. We're not without hunger and famine and water shortage. We're not without all the, we are here for that. Let me be clear. I'm not being unempathetic to that. What I am saying, though, is we're living through a season that we'll look back on history. Those of us, there will, for generations, will be, this will be the moment. And the question I have for you is what are you going to do with it? We always talk about in this podcast, shift your mind so you can shift your results. Shift your mind so you can shift whose results? Not mine, not your cousins, not your friends, your results. So my friend, my encouragement would be, if you're not satisfied with where you are, there's an opportunity to shift right now so that you can have better results, whatever that means for you, whatever that means for you. We're not here to judge what it is the result is that you want, whatever that looks like for you, right? But you're just one shift away, as I always say, from the breakthrough you've been looking for. And I hope that this might be that little gentle nudge to get you moving, right? So, my friend, I appreciate you being here today. Today was about how AI is changing business. We certainly didn't cover it all. It's a big, broad topic. I'm glued to it in what we're doing at the agency, what we're doing for our clients, what we're doing with Facebook, what we're doing with Google, what we're doing with all of the platforms that we work on, HubSpot. So we're all in. We owe it to our clients to be all in on AI. And let's be clear, we're able to bring our costs down to our clients too, and they love that. My friend, I hope you have hit the follow or subscribe button if you haven't already, so you never miss another episode. If you ever want to chat with me, hit me up on social media anywhere at Mr. Darrell Evans. And until next time, I'll see you on another episode of the MindShift podcast. Take care. Hit the subscribe button so you can become a part of the MindShift community. We'll help you shift your mind so you can shift your results.